Well, this is the Team Objection podcast, and it's for September 13th, 2018. And once again, because I have the planner up on a window behind where we record, I can't see it. I don't know what episode this is. 359? I think it's
Sure.
359.
357?
359.
Dang, Chris is really good at this.
I got it.
It's 359.
Sweet. Episode 359. It's the Dave and Michelle and Chris show. No Sean. He's sick.
I power through, man.
His girlfriend was sick. I don't know who got who, or if it was a joint thing, or what happened there. But they went on that. They went to that run up in the Pacific Northwest, and running type event. I think it was an obstacle course type one, and came back sick.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to preemptively name this episode "The Eye of the Hurricane."
I'm not going to call it that, but you can call it that internally.
Not?
That's fine.
But I was trying to make it stick. I tried to make it be a thing, so you couldn't refute it anymore.
I have to give you credit for trying. I mean, you're just going to go for it, and I respect that, Dave.
So the reason it's called "The Eye of the Hurricane," if you could see in the background of me, if you look at my background here, this is not my home.
Yes.
Anybody listening, just know it's not my house.
What?
I am in a hotel right now recording, and I am currently in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina to be precise, which right in the moment, Hurricane Florence is about a day away.
Yep.
2 days away, maybe.
Nearing landfall.
Scary.
Yep.
Yep.
It's gonna be interesting.
We are. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's so far it's not been too crazy where I am at the moment, and apparently it's supposed to be heading north a little bit more towards North Carolina. I guess by the time this airs, we'll know more of where it's going. But the thought of a hurricane coming down is crazy, especially when all I see is on TV, local channels saying like coastal areas of South Carolina evacuating, orders to evacuate South Carolina. I'm like, I'm in South Carolina.
Yeah.
All of South Carolina.
There are literal millions of cars evacuating. That's what I saw in a story today.
I was driving on a highway today I was driving on a highway. I'm here for a business trip, so I had to go actually to a different branch in my company. But anyway, I was driving on a highway back, and apparently, if I would gone one more mile on the highway, I would have gotten to a point where they flipped the highway. And you can't go west, and they turned the westbound highway an eastbound highway into a westbound highway to make everybody able to get out.
Yep.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. It's basically they said, nope, anybody at this point, we're going to stop you from continuing on the interstate. And anybody that's coming from the east, from the coast, to go west, to go more inland, you can drive on the eastbound side.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's scary.
It's scary. It makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because it's one of those things like, oh, we can open up 5 more lanes? That sounds great.
Yep.
Huh.
But I would lose my shit if I was driving on that side of the road on a freeway.
Yeah.
Be like, this is wrong. This is so wrong. I can't do this. Am I going to hit somebody?
Jeez, I've been in a tornado warning / whatever. I've seen a tornado, a big one from when I was a kid. I lived in New Mexico, but that's the only real natural disaster I've witnessed in any kind of capacity. I've never been in a hurricane or anything like that, but it sounds terrifying.
So I've never been in a hurricane either. I'm leaving here tomorrow, so I should miss it completely. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where they're predicting this is going to be really, really bad, and so a lot of the people are talking about it here, which is really interesting because it's kind of like the topic of conversation for everyone. Even though where I am in Columbia, they're probably just going to get a lot of rain and that's it. They're not going to get really the full brunt of it because it seems to be going farther north. But everybody's talking about it. It's like you're in a restaurant, you hear people talking about it. You're in a hotel, you hear people talking about it. People at my work are just everybody's just thinking like, oh yeah, I know a person at this part where they got to leave, and nope, my cousin lives on this island off the coast and they're not leaving. They think it's fine. It's not going to be a problem. They never leave during hurricanes. So
well, it's
interesting. It's unifying.
Yeah, because you don't see that very often. And we said we weren't going to talk about this, and we're not. But one of the other examples of that was September 11th. One of those rare times where, no matter what class you were in that day, because we were in high school, no matter what was going on, inside of school, outside of school, people on the street, strangers, everybody was talking about the same thing. And it's weird.
Yeah. It is weird.
Yeah. It's not normal.
No, it's weird. There is a strange sense of solidarity, though, and community that suddenly just forms. And I do really appreciate that, especially in light of tragedy or a foreshadowing of tragedy, like I feel like Florence is going to be.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that it kind of dies down as it gets towards the coast, or people take heed of these warnings and get out of the coastal areas.
Yeah.
I mean, property damage sucks, but if that's the worst that happens, that's the worst that happens.
That's the thing that always blows my mind. It's like, I know we as a culture are fairly materialistic and we are attached to our things, but like, this is your life. This is your family's life. Like, get out. Like, there has been ample warning. Like, don't test it.
And this is something I've learned from being here, actually. I'm like an expert on this almost now. This apparently happens every year. Almost.
That's true.
They order evacuations frequently, and so it happens because we can't predict hurricanes so precisely. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. It happens while they'll evacuate an area and nothing happens to that area, which of course pisses people off.
It's like a boy cried wolf situation.
It totally is. And to an extent, I don't blame them. You're going to uproot them from their lives for a week and have to travel and live in a shelter for a week. It sucks.
Yeah, it does.
But I'm also confused by the people who are so adamant in the face of it, especially when there's something like this coming where it's like, it's coming. Maybe it's not going to be as bad as anticipated, but it's going to be somewhat bad. Clearly, it's not going to be nothing. And still some people are like, I'm not leaving. This is my house. That's it. I'm not going anywhere. Everybody else can go. And then they get picked up by the hurricane and thrown 300 miles to the east. And you're like, well, bye.
And they're like, how could we have seen this was going to happen? It's like, we did. We warned you, But then it's hard when, I think, Dave, you bring up a good point, when there's this, like, constant, like, threat, and they're just kind of, like, they're desensitized to it at some point. It's just like, what is real? What is a real danger? What's not? And if you can't, quantify that super well, then everything becomes a non-threat.
And not to mention, a lot of times what has happened with these people is that they've lived through bad hurricanes. Yeah. They've lived through rough ones, and they've stayed in their house, and they've been fine. They might have got a little wet, but they've been fine. So it desensitized is the total right word for it. And I mean, good for them, I guess, because it goes to a point where they see it coming, and they're like, okay, well, I've been through this before. I know what steps to take. I'll board up my windows, and I'll do the X, Y, and Z, and I'll be fine. And it's unfortunate that it only takes one. It's one of those. There's a saying I remember in poker that's like, you're going to win all of the all-in hands you ever take, except for one.
Yep. You don't have to be wrong once.
Yep, yeah, exactly.
It also makes me wonder, so like, we're talking about all these cars that are evacuated and how you get out of there. There was the one that was threatening Hawaii about a month and change ago, and I was like, they don't get a ton of hurricanes there. I mean, I was there a couple years ago myself, so I learned more about it. But still, when it does come, it's like, then what?
Yeah,
where do you go?
I know. That's scary.
You're gonna hop on a boat? No.
Yeah, exactly.
Hop on a plane? I guess maybe, but that's extremely expensive.
And you can't do that with everybody.
Nope. No. Not everybody's getting off that way. And if you cut it too close to when the hurricane's coming, then they're going to shut down all the flights anyways. You can't really take a boat. You can't drive, obviously. So you're just
awful.
You're just there, and you're just like, okay, here comes the storm, I guess.
Wow.
That's the worst in the Caribbean islands, especially. I mean, we were still talking about Puerto Rico, and last year when they got hit by a hurricane, and they're finally starting to get power back.
Yeah, I was going to say, some people don't even have power still, and like we don't hear about it anymore because it's yesterday's news, whatever, last year's news, but like it's still like a very real present tragedy that happened a year ago that's not even resolved yet. It sucks.
And I love that there was this whole thing about like, the death toll, it's 48. Just kidding, it's 2,000.
God.
Like, what?
Yeah, it's rough in that instance just because it's all those islands, there is just nowhere to go, and it's consistent. It happens all the time. Hurricanes happen all the time, and they just get slammed by it with nowhere to go.
Well, that too, and then there's the actual like foundations of the structures that are built they're not built to weather any of these things either, so they just keep being destroyed. They don't have the money to facilitate actually building things that will last, and so it's just like this vicious cycle of constant devastation, and it's really tragic, actually.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and rank natural disasters, but so like Tornado Alley, for example, seems rough. Seems like a place I wouldn't really ever want to live. But in theory, if you build yourself a good storm shelter underground, you have a place you can go where you're going to be okay. Maybe your house gets fucked. Maybe everything around you gets ruined. There's a lot of things that go wrong still. But you have a place where you and your family can get out. In a hurricane, that doesn't really work that way. You can't build things underground because they'll flood. You can't do anything above ground because the gale force winds will blow it over. So you kind of have to evacuate, and that sucks.
That's interesting. That's a really good point. I never really thought of it that way. Huh.
Well, and if you're near the coast, you get that coastal swell where it's like, I have a house that's 1,000 feet from the beach.
Yeah.
I have a house that's 1,000 inches from the beach. This is going to be a problem.
I should sell this while it's beachfront property before it's underwater property.
Yeah, exactly.
The old underwater mortgage.
Yeah, and then there's like landslides that happen. If there's anything on cliff sides, like them just collapsing. Oh God, it's such a mess. It's such a mess.
And in Hawaii, you got the opposite effect because the lava flows will occasionally make like new land over time, so you actually get further away. But then a hurricane comes, and you get closer again. It's like I don't know where the beach is anymore.
That's so weird. Hawaii kind of blows my mind. Any kind of like volcano-based land is like. It blows my mind. It's like, and new land is now here, everyone. Like, this is fun. It's not, like, habitable, really, because it's lava, like, but it's, the world freaks me out sometimes.
Michelle, not here for the world. Dave, to be fair, if I was going to use a hurricane title, it would probably be Rock You Like a Hurricane.
All right, that's fair. All right.
It probably won't happen either. I'll probably forget come Thursday, but here we are.
Part of the thing is some of the people I've been traveling with, they're big Hamilton fans. So there's a song in Hamilton called "Eye of the Hurricane." Eye of the Hurricane. So that's why I'm thinking.
See,
of it.
I only know about "Eye of the Tiger," which sounds just as horrifying.
Oh my God! There's a tiger on Michelle's screen right now.
I know. Tigre.
Yeah, she has been especially weird about wanting to be right the hell here when I'm recording. Like on D&D, she's just been like so present. It's kind of annoying.
I don't know if you've noticed, but we're kind of, I'm not saying we should swear all the time, but we're kind of loosening the standards on that, and we still haven't gotten dinged for it, so.
All right, well, there's that. I try to be aware and cognizant of those things, but
I think she's finally realizing that, like, when you're here talking to no one, you're actually doing a thing, and if she comes in and interrupts, she gets attention.
She does. Yep, she does realize that.
You need to not give this reinforcement of that it's okay.
Her.
Too late.
I hate cats.
So I wanted to talk about the fact that you, Dave, were on a business trip because I went on, my second technical, like, actual business trip where I flew in a plane on business. There was hair flying everywhere.
I saw that.
This is ridiculous. I'm so sorry. So I went to Boston last week for a conference for digital marketers. There were 25,000 people there, which is like, why are there so many people? There were guests like Deepak Chopra. Like, what the hell? Last year they had Michelle Obama speaking. Like, not relevant to digital marketing, but just kind of like, we're cool. Like, we're here to like...
Trendy people.
Yeah,
it's just to help the sticker, to be honest. I mean, I just saw a couple weeks ago, Josh Gad was here in Arizona to do one of the congressional district debates. He was the moderator, and I'm like, why? He doesn't even live here. Why?
For this position, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yes, we had a bunch of those. Like Shonda Rhimes was there, and like some other comedians. Like there was like comedy, and you would like walk into this area called Club Inbound. The name of the conference was Inbound, and it was like a rave. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. They're trying so hard to be like really cool and like hip with the youth, and like it was funny, but also it was really cool. And I realized that I kind of really like business trips, not like often. I would hate to travel for work, but it's kind of nice to just like get out and like do whatever the hell you want. Like I've never been to Boston, so I got to do that, and it was all pretty much everything was on my company's dime. It was great, I have to say. Would recommend.
Yeah, so it's funny that you were saying that you're going to like this youthful scene with like basically a rave, because I'm doing pretty much the exact opposite. I'm my business trip I'm on right now, I'm auditing a branch, so I have to go through a bunch of paperwork and talk to people and make sure they're following procedures and stuff like that.
Yeah, that seems kind of stuffy.
It is a little bit, but the good part about it is that company dime thing. That is so underrated until you understand how cool it is, because I literally have a corporate card that I can use on trips like this, and they're like, I basically have like $75 a day. I'm like, that's your per diem. Go nuts.
It's
and I'm
so
like,
nice. I'm
like, okay.
I have a company card, so it goes on my card, but I expense all of it. So it's like as long as I have something in the bank, then it's whatever. But they didn't even give me a per day. They were just like, have fun, and it's like, okay, like it was really cool actually. I felt like such an adult. It did definitely like it was really weird. It's like anyone who is listening to the show or has listened to the show historically knows I have like serious anxiety about like everything, and I'm working on it in therapy, whatever. But like, I was not anxious this whole time last week. I was doing stuff and like I was meeting new people. I was like networking. I was walking through Boston alone at night, and I was like, bring it on. This is awesome. It was really fun. It was like a good like growth experience for me. I loved it.
That is by far, I think, the coolest thing about going on business trips is I love going to different cities and being able to go. And normally stuff you do is in the downtown area. So like I've gone on business trips. Let's see, to Milwaukee, Albuquerque, New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, and now Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And it's cool going to different cities and finding these different restaurants and trying the food, the local food and stuff like that. Because I could not imagine going to a business meeting in a different city and like people I work with that are local in the city, like, okay, what do you want to eat? Well, I think we're all going to Applebee's, so why don't you join us? I would just be like, I would look at them like, can you please give me something unique? Can you please give me something that's not something I can get in Phoenix?
I mean, I get it. There's a certain comfort when you travel and go to new places where some people, I'm not one of them, like to go to places they know because they don't want to risk something that's bad or something that makes them sick for some reason. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, I wanted to get something that is unique or relative to here. I don't... If I want to go out on my own and I want to go someplace safe, fine. But if I'm going to go with a group, I want to go someplace that is going to tell me something about the area I'm in.
Yeah, something that also, Dave, I want to ask you about this. And Chris, have you traveled much to the East Coast?
I've been there once, to Buffalo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I asked because that was my first time on the East Coast. That's the furthest east I've ever been. And all the buildings are super like old and everything's really historical. Like, is it like that in South Carolina too? It's just really neat. I don't know.
Funny story about South Carolina. So here's the thing. I am in Columbia, but I also had to drive to Augusta, Georgia today, which is not that far. It's only about 45 minutes to an hour away from where I am. So one of the other branches we had to review was in Augusta, Georgia. And on the way there, we went to another branch that was in a small town called Aiken, South Carolina. Tiny little town, totally Mayberry city. It's total like, if you imagine a small town in the South, that's what it is. And if you walk along the main street in the town, there are little signs every once in a while that says like, on this point in 1959 or on this point in 1865, like there's all these little signs that like of these historical signs. Like a lot of people give the South a lot of shit for hanging on to the past and the Confederate flag and stuff like that. And while I understand the reason why that's horrible, I also understand the reason why they love their history here. It is a unique thing. They're proud of their history. And unfortunately, their history contains some pretty shitty stuff. But
a lot of racism,
yeah, but they have a lot of good history too. But I mean, they have a lot of good history too, you know?
Totally.
So other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
All right, you got me. You got me good.
I understand your point, though, and it sucks because you want to cherish your history. It's just some of it's clouded in such darkness that you're like, we love our local stuff, except that. But even that we liked. It just sucks that it was about that. But yeah, you know.
Yeah. So, but other than that, like it is really cool just kind of seeing like these buildings are so old. Some of these houses are well over 125 years old. It's insane.
And what's even weirder is like for us, we're like, oh my God, this is so old. And then you go to Europe and you're like, what the hell? Like, like these pubs that have literally been there for like 600 years.
This Scottish castle dates to the 800s. You're like, 800s?
I know, it's so weird. Like it blows my mind. Like I can't fathom it. But I mean, for us, like our history is relatively new, so it's like even between like the coasts, like there's a huge difference, and I just found that fascinating. I was like walking around in Old Town Boston, and I just like came up on like essentially it was like a graveyard, a cemetery that had just been kind of like built around it, and it was like, oh, here lies someone from like I think it was like 1785 or something. I was just like, what? That's so cool. And it was just like nestled in like with the rest of the city, and then right down the street was like Old North Church or whatever, where like Paul Revere was, and I'm just like, like this is so cool. And then like right there is like a drugstore, and it's like I don't how about all these things
and a Starbucks.
Yeah, it's like fascinating to me. They are actually really good about not having any corporations there. I think everything was like mom and pop, like super old Italian, which is really cool. But it kind of blew my mind, and I loved it. Like it just had this antiquity to it that I'm just not really used to. Yeah, the East Coast is rad. I want to go back.
So I agree with you. Like I like that part about the East Coast. The other thing about the East Coast that's crazy is the fact that all the states are so close together. The idea, like to me, when I found out yesterday that I was driving to Georgia, I'm like, I have to go to another state? Like, isn't that really far? Like, that seems crazy to me. And they're like, no, it's about an hour. It's fine. I was like, okay. Like,
no, it's like you can just like travel in California for like ever.
Oh yeah. If I wanted to drive to see Michelle, it's literally 2 states away from where my hometown is, and it would take me like 2 days to drive there.
Yep.
No, it's super weird. And it kind of. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I think this is part of why people struggle to understand Flagstaff in Arizona, because the state is so big that it allows for different climes as you go further north that are vastly different than the desert that it's all known for.
Yeah.
If this was like the East Coast, we would be in a different state than Phoenix is. But it's not. So people go, how can that be? It's the same place. Well, it's because they come from a place where you can't drive more than 30 minutes. So how much could the climate possibly change?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I also notice like when people come from Europe, they're baffled by Arizona specifically. I think for the same reason, honestly, because driving, from what I understand, I haven't been to Europe, but like driving through Europe or like taking the train through Europe is a lot like taking the train or driving through the East Coast. Because you're just like going through country. This is countries though, states. That's even weirder. But yeah, it's definitely a different thing. It's a different experience. And I grew up and I've lived solely on the West Coast, and I just think that's it's a huge difference. One thing that I disagree with, for people have told me, they're like, oh, like people in Boston or like people in New York City are so rude. So just be prepared for that. I didn't experience that at all. At all. And I was like tourist with my phone, like walking in front of me, being obnoxious, but like stepping out of the way when people were going through, like just being aware and cognizant. Not a single person was rude to me. Everyone was very like busy. People are busy. They're moving quickly. They're trying to get through their day. But like, that's any city. Like, I just feel like that was really a misguided kind of comment. I heard a lot of people tell me that. They were just like, yeah, everyone's just rude. Just get over it. And like, it's like, no. Not really. I don't know. I felt that was kind of a mischaracterization of the East Coast from my little tiny microcosm of an experience, but I don't know.
So I can tell you in my experience, because I have been to Boston and I've been to New York. Generally, New York, I think, is ruder than Boston. People can be. The thing about it, though, is that if you cross them, like something happens, I think they're way more rude. If you don't get in their way, they'll ignore you. And I think that's the difference, Michelle, because if you just avoided them and were cognizant of your surroundings and let them get through, you got no problem. However, if you ran into somebody because you weren't paying attention, the likelihood that they wouldn't just be like, oh, sorry, no problem, would be higher. So they might get a little bit more angry because of that. Because I think people in those cities are just naturally higher speed. They're closer together, everything. They got to compact everything in. They got to compact their time. And it's like, I got places to be. Get out of my way.
Yeah, that I can see. But I guess I don't go out of my way to like be a nuisance to people or like be like obstructing their way. I did notice though that I walked everywhere. I walked like approximately 1 million miles. And lots of honking. Like a lot. Like basically just like constant horns. Like as I was walking around, directed at me, directed at anyone. Like it wasn't even like personal. It was just like I'm honking my horn now because I'm in a vehicle.
Well,
and
I mean, traffic is so tightly packed that people just don't have the time for it, because they know every single day they're gonna have to work around it. So either you know how to get around situations or you don't, and you're getting beeped at. There's really no way around it.
You know, there were, I mean, people don't adhere to the like crosswalks at all. Like just even so, like I had to like adopt that mentality and just like walk out in the middle of the street. Otherwise, I'm getting yelled at. And I'm like, seems wrong. This seems opposite of what I should do, but I'm gonna do it anyway. People seem to respect you more when you don't adhere to the law. In Boston, I'm like crosswalking. Everyone's like, oh no, go ahead. This is fine. Whereas if I'm waiting on the side, like waiting for the light to go on, the walk sign, people are like confused. They're like, what is she doing? It was really weird.
It's funny in those old cities, especially like, Boston, New York, those cities were not designed at all for cars. So their roads are like 2 people wide, basically.
I know. And they're like weird. Like it's like an old cottage house.
And they can't expand it. They have no chance of expanding them ever because they're going to have to tear down old buildings in order to expand the road. So it's not changing.
Which I think is really charming. It's a part of like that old town charm that like we also just don't really have on the West Coast. There's a little bit of that here and there. Everyone has like their downtown, their old town areas, but like this is like serious. I was like walking through and it's like all these like literally like I don't even know 5-6 generation like Italian families all speaking Italian. I'm like, that's so badass, like so cool. I like sat down and had like real gelato and I was like, I want to die. It's so cool. Like they're just speaking Italian. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, but there's just so much history and I don't know. It's neat. I liked it a lot. I am going to stop rambling about Boston, but it was my first time being on the East Coast and Boston's a cool town. And yeah.
So I would highly recommend going to New York because it is really cool too.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of funny stories about people being rude in New York though. One of them was I was going with my sister to a dessert shop. We were going to get some dessert after dinner, and there was a guy in line in front of us that was going to get some slice of cake or something like that. And I don't know what set him off but he didn't have they didn't have what he wanted, I guess. I don't know exactly what happened, but he basically took his money and change and like slammed it down on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then something and one of the papers went flying, so my sister bent over and picked it up and handed it back to him, and he was still all pissed off about something. And I guess he was just still mad that he couldn't get what he wanted. So my sister, in a very strange set of passive aggressiveness, goes, normally you say thank you. And that's not even passive aggressive. It's just aggressiveness.
It's just straight aggressive.
Pretty aggressive, yeah. Not very much passive.
No. So in a strange set of aggressiveness for her, she says, normally when someone hands you something, you say thank you. And at this point, the guy's ready to leave, and he walks out and just goes, "Fuck you." And I was like, "Oh, damn."
And that seems like a kind of like not super heated response. Like it almost just kind of feels like more dismissive than anything else. Like it could have been way worse.
He was kind of an older guy, but it was just one of those things like, did he really just cuss at my sister for helping him pick up his money?
Mm-hmm. He's my spirit animal.
Yeah. I love it.
And then the other one real quickly is I was eating at a Ray's Pizza. My dad and I were in line. We were about to go through and see what kind of pizza we wanted. And some of the people behind the counter decided that they were going to get in an argument. I don't know what the argument was about. It was some guy and some girl. And so the girl shoved the guy, and then the guy like tried to get away and just avoid it. And he started walking to the other side of the kitchen area. And the girl was still pissed that he was avoiding her. So she turned around and picked up a pizza slicer and started running at him.
What?
And so fortunately, she was grabbed by somebody else and slipped a little bit and fell down, and they held her down so she couldn't go after the guy. And my dad and I looked at each other and said, we should go somewhere else.
Yeah. That seems about right. That's pretty wild.
This might not be the place for us.
No. And so it's one of those like, wow, this is what people say. This is what people are talking about in New York. Like, I've met plenty of nice people in New York, but there are some where it's just like they don't care at all.
Well, and I think there's a lot of that is just because there are just so many people. The chances of running into a crazy person is just a lot higher.
Yeah.
So, at that point.
Yeah. It's just all densely packed into one area, so it's bound to happen.
That's so funny.
They're totally a get out of my way if you're not doing something for me type of thing. It's like when you go through line at a pizza place, like the idea of the soup Nazi.
Yes! I was going to say that.
While comical, it is so dead on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember going to a pizza, like some hole in the wall pizza place and like walking through and they're just pointing at you like, hey, to give them their order. They don't say, hey, what would you like tonight? We have this. And they're like, hey, like literally snapping at you.
And you
like,
better be ready.
Yes, you better be ready.
Don't you get to that point in the line if you're not ready to know what you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to get a pizza cutter too, and then everybody gets extra sauce on their pizza.
That's great. I will prepare myself. I would love to go to New York.
It's an awesome city. It really is.
I've heard it's really dirty and kind of gross, and also great.
Not anymore. Honestly,
really?
When I went there when I was younger, because I went there in about I actually went there in July of 2001, which is crazy.
That's weird.
But I went there and it was really, it was kind of dirty. And the past couple times I've gone, I just went last May. It's nice. It's not dirty at all. I mean, there's parts obviously.
You're gonna find pockets, but that's true of almost any downtown metropolis, like Denver, which is a beautiful city overall. Some parts of that downtown area are garbage, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, Portland's the same way. And there's always going to be like a Skid Row.
Phoenix,
it's
same thing.
Yeah.
Well, you got dirty hippies everywhere there, Michelle. I don't know.
I mean, look, case in point right here.
What part of the town isn't dirty, really?
It's true. Oh my God. So speaking of dirty hippies, so I'm flying. So back to like the whole going to Boston thing. I'm flying from Portland to Boston direct, and on the plane, it's like a 5-6 hour flight, and I'm sitting there. I'm like doing work. I was actually working, and on Labor Day. Oh my God. And their kids right in front of me just behaving like perfect angels. It was bizarre. And I'm just like, this is nice. This is fun. I like inhale for a second and I'm overwhelmed with the intense, pungent odor of weed on the plane. And I'm like looking around, like, is anyone noticing this? Like, what is going on? This woman with kids in front of me, like across the aisle, like furrows her brow and like turns around, looks at me.
You dirty hippie.
And goes, and whispers, "Is that?" And I was like, I'm like, "Yes, it is." And she goes, she goes, "What the fuck?" And then she like jostles the guy next to, like, that must be her husband or something, and was just like, "Do you smell that?" I'm like, what? Somebody decided to light up on a plane going from Portland to Boston. I don't know who it was. No one got involved. No one like ratted them out. I have no idea who it was. They did it 2 more times on the flight. That is the ballsiest thing. It's so illegal on so many levels. I could not believe that I was selling this.
How do you even get away with that? Like, I'm trying to think of like, that's the biggest plane of no narcs ever.
Because we're all from Portland. Like, it was so funny.
Get stitches.
I know. I couldn't believe like the attendants, the flight attendants didn't say anything. They were, I mean, I was towards the back, and so it had to have been within like about 3 rows because it was just, I mean, unmistakably marijuana. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I cannot believe somebody was like, you know what? I can't not have my weed for 5 hours. I need to vape it up right now. I called him Vapes on a Plane. I thought that was pretty funny.
Wouldn't it make sense to bring a brownie?
Yes, that was what I was thinking. It's like, because that lasts about 6 hours or more, and you just fall asleep. Like, if you have anxiety, like, I get it. That is a thing you definitely have, and I know it can help with paranoia and all that stuff. It can also make it worse. But it's like, just why jeopardize your entire life? Because, oh my God, they would land a plane in the middle of nowhere to confiscate and then arrest you, because it's insanely illegal. Like, across state lines? Are you kidding me? Like, it's so bad. If you tamper with a cigarette, like no cigarette lighter thingy on a plane, you can get arrested and like jail time, stuff like that. I was just like, the gall of this person, and also, who are they? The mystery of vapes on a plane. Who are you? It was amazing. And also, like, there are kids. Please don't do that. That's not really cool.
There's kids, and there's also, all it takes is one person with asthma, and then the no narc policy is going out the window.
Yeah. Severe allergies. Yeah. Like, it's so bad. Like, this person was very selfish and very thoughtless, but also, me personally, as kind of a stoner, I thought it was kind of funny. But I realized that it was unacceptable.
Your reaction was something along the lines of like, you shouldn't be doing that, but nice job.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes,
well done. Doing the bad thing. Well done.
It was just I never thought that I would experience something like that before, or ever, because it was just, really odd. Like, it's really like someone just like smoking up, just like lighting a cigarette and just like smoking on a plane these days. Like, what? Even though it's way better if it's a cigarette than it is like weed because it's not illegal. Like, I couldn't believe it. That was just the weirdest thing.
So speaking of things you never thought you would experience, here comes my segue now. I'm going to be on our front page of the newspaper tomorrow.
That's so weird.
Man.
Is bizarre.
Yeah.
Granted, it's because I run the newspaper now, but still.
Your picture and everything?
At least a mugshot, and I might run that old picture of us at the Suns game.
With me?
Yeah, with you and Sean.
Oh, shit. I'm about to be on the front page of a newspaper.
That won't be on the front page, but it would be on Jump.
Okay.
Because we're not going to have room for a photo on A1, but there's going to be like a little mugshot of me. And then on Jump, there might be that old photo of us just because it's one of the photos I think I look better in, and I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
It's my paper
now.
Our
Suns fandom.
I want to put Dave and Sean on the paper. I'm going to put Dave and Sean on the paper.
You better mention our podcast.
I am not going to. Somebody asked me if I was going to. I was like, no.
So I actually have a question about that. We don't have to talk about it on air, but like we're going to continue doing the show.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about the potential of maybe not because readers can be very intrusive and they have certain expectations of managing editors and stuff like that. So I was curious.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly some potential conflicts of interest that could arise because of this, but the reality is there's also 7 years of walking conflicts of interest that are already recorded for everyone's posterity.
It's true.
And while I'm not really like ashamed or afraid of anything I've said back there, you never know. I'm not going to talk about the paper a ton on here because that's a potential disaster.
Yeah.
But in general, I don't see why I can't spout off my views. I could do the same thing on the newsprint if I wanted to.
That's true. Oh, that's cool.
So you took over the newspaper, and your first act is to put a headline of yourself.
Didn't want to. I know you're being facetious, but didn't want to. But it makes sense. It is a big deal. It's the first time it's changed in 24 years, and readers have been asking for a couple months since it happened what the next step is.
Yeah.
So even though I wasn't thrilled about it, it was the same thing. It was also weird putting his obituary on A1 when it happened. And he would have hated it. But it's also like it's one of the biggest stories of the day, so it kind of has to go out there. It's especially weird because not only is it me now, but I'm also the one editing it. So I'm seeing my name in the headline and going, have you guys ever been in the newspaper before? Or any newspaper?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I was ever in the newspaper directly. I was on TV on the news.
Yeah.
I've also been on the news.
For Whitehead,
I was
right?
interviewed once. Yeah. I was interviewed once on the news. I don't think I've ever been directly named in the newspaper, though.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been on TV, although if I have, I wouldn't know it, but I don't know why I would have. I have been on the front page of a newspaper before.
On the front page? What for?
On the Republic in 1992 was when the All-Star game was here for the NBA. 93, 92?
I want to say 94, but
somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah.
You know, I was young. I was a young baby child. And I'm on a photo on the front page of traffic, of like foot traffic crossing one of the bridges in downtown Phoenix to get into the All-Star weekend events. Me and my stepdad both happen to be in the photo. We're not featured. We're two of 50 to 100 people that are visible, let alone the whole crowd. But we're like on the side nearest the railings, and you can see it's us.
Stepping it up.
Right. Now the whole story's about
25 years ago.
Me.
Yep. That's kind of badass. Like, I don't know.
It's also weird having quotes submitted about you or doing an interview about yourself.
Yeah. You should have
weird.
somebody else do that, I think.
Well, that's what we did. I had somebody else wrote it and interviewed me. But even so, like, they work for me, so that's a strange situation. Because a lot of people would say, like, well, that's the whole point of it. When you're being interviewed for a story, you're usually going to talk about yourself. That's why we're going to that source, because they have information that's unique or different or whatever. This is not that. I don't know what this is. It's not that. So it's strange.
So is this going to open you up to the Flagstaff Elite? Like, are you going to go to swanky parties and stuff now?
Have had so many meetings this week and have more to come where it's like city council members and influential people from the different businesses. And so, yeah, I think I'm getting sucked into the intelligentsia.
That's kind of awesome in a way.
I know, it is.
Except
You're an important person, a VIP.
Right, but there's no perks.
Well, not yet.
Well, not if you're on the straight and narrow. Like,
that's true. If I want to go on a take, I can set up like Mama Burger with a sponsorship and then get free food when I walk in.
I was thinking way bigger than that, but you do you, boo boo.
I don't think you can. There's not that much big in Flagstaff.
I mean, just the sheer amount of networking you're going to be able to do. And I say this as a fucking stupid marketer person, but like, it's true. Like, it's who you know, and you're going to get to know everybody. So, I mean, there's that.
Daily Sun names Etling as new managing editor, and I'm like, that's me.
You.
Like, who's this Etling guy? He sounds kind of all right.
I think I might have said this off air, or I said it at work before I left. Lord knows it all blurs together these days, but it's just weird seeing the title.
Yeah.
I only took the word interim off. I've had the title for 2 months, essentially, but it's just so very different when that interim title's gone. It's like, it's just you now. Good luck.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
This actually makes me think of something. And Chris, you probably haven't felt this at all, but I know, Michelle, you kind of got promoted recently as well, right? Within the past few months?
Yeah, I went from being a specialist to a manager.
There you go. So I have heard of something, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Andy, about this, something called imposter syndrome.
Yes!
Where you get into a new job, and you feel like they're going to find me out. They're going to totally find me out that I'm full of shit. Why do I even have this job? They're going to fire me so fast.
It's real. It's a real feeling.
I have absolutely felt that in my job. So, but Chris, I think you've been doing this long enough that you're probably pretty well connected enough that you're not going to feel that.
It's weird because I was sort of eased in, if only because I'd done it on occasion in the past. I did it when he had the triple bypass at the end of last year for almost a month, so it wasn't like it was brand new, but even then, I still have felt it a couple times.
Yeah.
Usually, like when I'm about to leave for work or when I'm about to go to bed, it's like I have like a meeting tomorrow or an interview or some function I'm going to. I went to NAU for a forum last week, and it's like they're gonna see through me.
Yeah.
They're gonna know I'm full of shit, and they're gonna sense it immediately, and they're gonna be like, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen, and I'm not full of shit.
Feeling.
But the feeling is real.
It's a really bad feeling. And in fact, I felt this even just being in my previous position. Like, and then I got promoted, and I was like, why? Like, what am I doing that's so impressive? It's so bizarre. Like, I'm just doing my job. And I don't realize that, like, expectations are a lot lower, and I have very high expectations of myself. But to kind of lead into that, I actually was asked a couple of weeks ago by an old professor to like sit in on like an interview with her students. They could ask me questions about like my job and like how I leveraged my English degree into like a career. And I was like, why do you want to ask me this? Like, I don't understand. And it's like, to her, I'm like a vision of success because I have a career and like I'm moving forward and upwards, and like, for me, I'm just like, what do I even say? Like, I don't know how I got here. And like, I just like wandering my way through life, and I've had a lot of like good luck essentially. And it's like, how do you tell kids that? You're just like, well, I made all the wrong choices and it all worked out. And so I had to do that today, and it was terrifying. It was actually better than I thought. I'm learning to own it, which is unto itself kind of a whole thing. But it's hard for me. I've really struggled with imposter syndrome because I feel like a total fucking phony all the time.
Yeah. So I've heard, this makes me think of all of those times you see those motivational speakers where there's some guy who's super successful in whatever field he's in, or an athlete, or, a tech giant, and they ask him like, what advice can you give to somebody so they can be successful? And they're like, just be true to yourself, stick to what you want. I'm like, yeah, that's really easy for you to say. It worked out for you.
I know. And actually, that was what I ended up saying to these kids. I was like, listen, like, I literally applied to one job in Portland and I got that job. That's unheard of. And I'm like, don't take my advice, because my advice is actually contrary to what I did. It's like, you need to apply to all kinds of shit, like 60 plus places. Like, you need to be researching. You need to be like making cover letters, like up the ass. Like, you need to be working your ass off to make yourself stand out. I didn't do that. And I don't know what to tell you. Like, I did none of that. And so I kind of made a joke of it, kind of just being like, I am an exception. Don't take this as a means to be lazy and just think you'll just skate through, because for the most part, it's not the case. And like, it was really hard. I felt kind of like, again, I felt even more like an imposter by the end of it. I was just, because fortunately there was another girl who I had classes with, who she took a totally different trajectory. And I will say, like, she did like, I think she did a master's in like, rhetoric or something. Like, I am financially much more successful than she is, like quite a bit more. And so it was interesting to see the dynamics, but like she had more of the traditional, like, I didn't really have a career path, so I went back to school and then now I'm doing this thing and I don't really like it and I'm trying to figure it out. So I think that was probably more relatable to the kids, where I'm just like, I'm fantastic and I don't know why. And it was just weird. Like, it stresses me out a little bit. I want to feel like I'm just like every other millennial, like kind of struggling along, but I'm actually not. I never really had a problem with it. I just kind of walk my way into jobs, and I have good work ethic, and I learn shit, and I pick things up as I go, and like apparently employers really value that. And I wish I'd struggled more, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I know.
No, you don't.
The idea of it. I like the idea of like the starving artist, of like the struggle, but realistically, I'm so glad that I didn't have to. I just feel really, really privileged, and I don't like that feeling. It's tough. It's a hard thing.
Thank you for that TED Talk, Michelle.
I know. I know. It's so stupid.
What helps me with the imposter syndrome stuff is I've used this a couple times, honestly. I used to be afraid of water slides, and I don't know why. I'd never really been on one, but in high school, I was like, why can't I do this? There are plenty of like stupid people out there who can do this. Why not me? And then I was like, sex seems complicated. It's tough. How do you know what you're doing? And I'm like, other people figure it out. They're dumber than I am. Can't be that bad. So it's a similar experience, and that's not to belittle other people or to like pump myself up as an elitist. It's just like there are people who have other issues or whatever who are doing this on a daily basis, whatever it happens to be, some task they're struggling with. Why not me?
I mean, that's actually, I should have said that to the kids. I didn't, but that is a really good perspective. And because like, yeah, I mean, a lot of our skills are transferable from person to person, and we're not super unique, and we are expendable, but why not you? Why not? Someone has to do the job. Why not you? Like, make yourself valuable. Like, stand out, make yourself known.
Especially for mundane tasks. I can't be Usain Bolt, okay? I don't have the genetics or the drive or the training or any of the stuff, the athleticism to be Usain Bolt. But he's an elite top 0.0001% of the world athlete, so I can't do that. But, like, if I needed to learn how to be better with cars and how to fix cars, I could do that.
Yeah.
I haven't had an interest in it, but, like, anybody can do that if they want to. They just have to try and apply themselves.
Yeah.
So why not?
Time, yeah.
Yeah. So there are some things that not everybody can do, but most things everybody can if they really want to try.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I don't know. Now that I've gotten this promotion and I feel like I'm supposed to be this, like, I'm almost 30 and like I'm like weirdly like in a really good place in my career, and like I love my job nowadays, and it's just like really fulfilling, and I come home and I can leave work at home and I can do things that I love, like for my passions. I'm just like, I guess I've arrived? Like, question mark? I thought it would be harder. And I see people around me, like, struggling constantly. And they're just in a constant state of, like, I don't know what to do with my life. And they're, like, 35. And I'm like, I feel so bad for them. And my heart goes out to them. But I don't have any of that experience. And it's weird. It's just weird.
Mm. Yeah, you've got your own struggles just like everybody does. It's just different. And that's, I think
James is like, no, you're kind of fucked up.
No, you get to ride the struggle bus with everybody else, Michelle.
No, it's just different, and that's
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But no, I mean, in reality, the way I always see that is that there are people who look so put together and that they've just coasted through life and it seems like everything's great, and on the inside they're not.
Yeah.
And vice versa, like people who seem like they're struggling and they're fine on the inside. Like
That's true.
It's impossible to know everybody's story, so it's also not the greatest of ideas to think like I'm on this path or I shouldn't deserve this or not. There's just so many different people and stories and whatever that you can't compare yourself.
I know. That's been a struggle like my whole life. I'm always constantly comparing myself to others, for better or for worse. And I am doing it now. I mean, I still do it, and it's tough. But as an adult, I find that I'm doing it less. It's just like the ultimate goal is to be happy, right? That's what we want. We want to feel stable and secure and happy. And people find that in so many different ways, and it's kind of amazing. The human condition's pretty fantastic in that way, and also kind of scary. But I don't know. I'm learning some life lessons in the year of our Lord 2018. It's been a roller coaster for me emotionally, for good and for bad, and it's just, I don't know. I'm looking forward to my 30s, because like my 20s were weird and good and bad, mostly bad, but I'm feeling good about like my 30s. I'm feeling really good about them, actually.
Just wait till your back starts hurting and you have headaches all the time.
My back's always hurt. In fact, I am in the best condition health-wise that I've been since I was like 20 years old, because I'm walking every day. I don't have any back pain anymore. It's kind of awesome, but it'll come around. It'll come around again, and it won't matter how much exercise I do. I'll be like hobbled over, and yeah, it's only a matter of time. But
I'm kidding. I'm only 4 years older than you. It's not that big a difference.
Which is crazy to me, because to me, I'm just like, I think of Dave and I'm just like, oh, like this, like, consummate professional. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm over here fucking around, like, you know, and it's not really, I know. You say you're doing this, you're doing the whole, like, what, me, really? Like, I feel like a phony. And it's like, it's a constant thing. Like, the more I talk to people who I like have looked up to my whole life, I even think about my parents when I was like, they have their stuff together, like they know what they're doing. And then I asked them, like, how did you do it? Like, how did you have like 2 kids and like you were working? And it was like, it was day to day. It was
they're like, oh, I
yeah,
did.
We just did. And it was like, again, it was like, they're like, we did everything one day at a time. And sometimes it was really hard and sometimes it was fine. But like, and sometimes it was just like, all right, let's just wait for the next day. And I guess it makes you realize that like we never really have our shit together, because things are always changing and it's dynamic, and it's kind of reassuring. I just was lied to when I was younger. I thought I would just like reach a point of like stability and like this is my life now, and that has happened to an extent, but everything's just chaos all the time. I'm embracing the chaos, is what I'm trying to say.
Did you hear that, Chris? She said she looks up to me her whole life.
Yes.
Sure.
My
she said.
whole life.
I'm not look-upable, even though I'm a foot taller than her.
Yeah.
You are physically very look-upable, and now that you're a highfalutin editing manager for a newspaper,
rubbing elbows with people, yeah.
And you know what's sad is that I now have probably in the most prestigious position of the 4 of us, and I might still make the least amount of money.
I hate it. It's true, and I hate it.
So not fair.
I think I'm pretty close to both Sean and Michelle, but I think I'm a little less, and that's sad. There's no other way around it. Not because of my financial earnings, because that's, you know, that's a thing, but just the principle is a little sad.
The principle is the worst. Like, you have way more responsibility than I do, like, on any given day. And I'm just like, cashing in those paychecks, and it sucks. Like, I hate it. It actually makes me
you don't. No, you don't.
Oh, I do. I totally hate it. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed by what I make, because it's not representative of the workload that I have. It's great. I love it, but also it kind of makes me feel really guilty.
Well, go buy yourself something. You'll get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Retail therapy.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yikes.
Well,
Anyway.
that's it, folks. Thank you for listening to our episode that's not going to be called anything with hurricane in it.
Damn it! Why?
We'll see. We'll see. It's
in
not
the
Thursday
eye of
yet.
a hurricane, there is quiet.
It's the eye of... No, that's wrong.
Hurricane.
Doesn't fit.
No. Plus copyright infringement. It's a thing. It's a thing. Watch out. All right, that's the end of this episode. In between shows, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com. You can send emails to the show to objectionnetwork@gmail.com. On social media, we are at Team Objection. And let's plug the YouTube channel again. It's youtube.com/objectionnetwork. The Anachronism, our D&D campaign, is back, and we're still going through Persona 5. So there's plenty to do there. We'll see you next time.